So, our first caller today is Logical Apostate in Missouri, and they want to understand trans rights and how they impact or are impacted by religion. Hello, does that sum up your
Yes.
position? What's the question you'd like to ask?
Specifically, it's easy for me to intellectualize as a cis male, a white male, what it might be like as a trans woman, being around religion. Well, I don't want to say constantly, but certainly consistently being confronted as you are doing what you're doing. I just want to understand in the best way that I can, no woman could tell me what it's like to be pregnant because I'm a man and I can't get that. But I would really love to hear just like what your experience is. And maybe the last thing I would want to know would be how can I perhaps improve that experience for those around me? Just, again, as a guy who completely understands I can't really get it.
Right. Yeah, I think like a question that people often ask me about trans stuff is like, they're trying to be polite and they're just like, I don't really get it. And maybe they might say that because I'm like a binary trans woman, as in, like I was born and they said, oh, it's a boy, and now I say it's, I'm a woman. And there are like non-binary people, and there's all kinds. Oh, sorry, gosh, my cat's just pulled my headphones out. 1 second, I'm very sorry. And anyway, we're back. People might say, well, maybe I get you, but I don't really get these other things. And I think, people can be worried to say that, but I also think that's kind of fine. If you don't get it, like you say, you don't get pregnancy. I will never know what it's like to be pregnant either, but that doesn't mean I can't fully support people who are pregnant and listen to their experiences and understand what their struggles are and, support them. So, and I guess you can do the same with trans people. You can do your best to try and understand it, but it might be that you never get it. I mean, to be honest, I don't really get why anyone wants to be a man. So I think that's, I think it's a fair trade. But I think in how it like impacts of religion, I think in the UK, it's not maybe as bad as it is in some places. For example, in the USA, where religion can be the sort of dominating political factor in sort of big macro scale politics, but also in sort of interpersonal relationships. I do think that there are a lot of Christians in the USA and in the UK and in Canada who are, perfectly reasonable and capable of being pro-LGBT rights. There are lots of Christians who are supportive of gay rights, and trans rights is kind of, in one sense, more of the same. I mean, it's a lot more complicated than that. But I think once you can get your head around this idea, if there's people in your religion saying, oh, well, actually it says in the Bible all gay people are bad, and you're like, oh, well, yeah, but the general message is love, and I'm kind of ignoring that, and I know these gay people and they're very religious too, and it's all fine, then to sort of expand that to trans people isn't much of a step, especially when trans people aren't actually mentioned in the Bible. I don't think they're mentioned in any holy book, at least to my knowledge. If anyone in the comments or in the chat or ever wants to let me know if there is a holy book that does explicitly mention trans people, that'd be great. But yeah, as far as I know, it doesn't. So often you end up in a situation where people are reacting to trans people as just like the same as gay people. And I know I just kind of said, oh, it's a bit like more of the same. It's more of the same in the way that a lot of people approach it. Usually their attitudes are very similar on the two subjects, but they are very different things. And certainly how religions deal with them. And I think often when you're talking to religious people, and if they like don't agree with trans people because of their religion, you could easily go down some kind of rabbit hole where you end up arguing about who created the universe or something, and all you really want them to do is just like respect your name and pronouns, and you don't need to prove whether there's a universe creator or all this kind of stuff. So what I often say is, to these people is, does it say anything explicitly like trans people are bad, you should not transition in the Bible? And they'll say, well, no, because that's true. And say, well, your God has created everyone with different challenges, and this is mine. And I always try and get in their little, like, before they can say it, I'll be like, but God doesn't make mistakes, right? So God's obviously chosen me to be trans. And that does seem to work on, more liberal Christians, at least that I've encountered, quite a lot of the time. But if not, then I'll, argue about the existence of the universe with them if I have to. But so I guess when it comes to religion, it's often not the main, like the actual law of the religion, the things written in the books isn't the driving force for homophobia or transphobia. It's usually used as an excuse. It's used as, well, I don't really like this, so I'm going to find a bit in my holy book which justifies it, and then I'm going to say I can't change my mind because God says. I think that's the same with all of these rational prejudices. The prejudice exists first, and then you look for the justification. Yeah, sorry.
Can I, if I could just clarify? So it sounds like you're saying that when it boils down to it, it comes down to an argument from ick, which is to say ridiculous, in my opinion. No, I really appreciate what you're saying. I just, I feel like being raised fundamentally, like fundamentalist Christian, there was so much, even as a white male, that I felt like I was doing wrong, that I could never measure up to, blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't imagine what it must be like, to be, whether the Bible says it or not, treated as if the Bible says that it's, an abomination or whatever the hell somebody wants to try to, like put on somebody else. But no, I really do appreciate your explanation. That's, thank you. Thank you very much.
No probs. If you want to get more of an understanding of, like, so I did grow up thinking that trans people were disgusting abominations, basically. So if you want to find out more about that, I have a video on my channel called I'm Trans and I Used to Be Transphobic. If you're interested. MD, do you have any, like, thing you could add on this? I know this isn't necessarily the ultimate call for you, but do you have a take, like, as a cis man, like how you've encountered, like, if you encountered LGBT phobia from, your position in religion or anything?
I mean, maybe the best thing that I can do to comment on this is just to say that we get trained on LGBTQ and specifically dealing with trans patients and how we need to change our approach for trans patients, because there is obviously this huge abuse and a lot of struggles that are very unique to trans people. And so we have to take a very special approach. And I don't know, for me, I really don't, maybe it's because I've been out of the religion for so long, but I don't understand the problem, frankly. I don't understand how people have problems with it. Because to me,
I would agree at this point, but sorry.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's naive. I know it's naive, but to me, like, trans rights are human rights, and if you're going to grant human rights, then that extends to everyone. So I don't see why people are drawing distinctions between them necessarily. I understand why, for the purposes of discourse, it happens, but from a logical, well, because people want to have conversations specifically about this, but from a logical sort of perspective, for me, I don't think that there's a logical distinction between trans rights or gay rights or any other rights. I think that it's human rights.
I think that I don't think you could possibly sum it up in a way that I could understand it better. I really appreciate that. I mean, frankly, I don't think anybody trans shops for groceries or trans parks their car. That's ridiculousness. So thank you for that. That's wow. Puts it in perspective. You guys have got plenty of callers, I'm sure. One last question, and I can even hang up and listen later. The only thing that I have is I've seen pronouns she, they, he, they. I'm not sure what that means, and I just want to understand. They, them would make sense, but he,
Right.
they, she, they, I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I hear
and I
you.
just,
So-
just
So,
curiosity.
yeah, that's cool. So if you do want to ask, like super trans specific questions in future, I'm sorry to the ACA, but I do have another show which is called the Transatlantic Call-In Show, which you're welcome to call in and ask any trans questions. But also, so just on this quickly before we move on to another caller, when you see two pronouns, you might see he/they or she/they or something, and sometimes you can see he/she/they, and it's just kind of saying I'm okay with all these pronouns. So if you want to call me they, them, that's cool. And if you want to call me she, her, that's cool. And I think that's usually how people use it. So, pick one and stick with it if that's how it works for you. But they're just letting you know they're cool with all of them. So anyway, thank you very much,
Got it.
Logical Apostate, for calling in.
Thank you.